screen it, do you think?
Oh God, no. You can blank screen that, yeah. Oh God, no, I'm not doing that.
No? Kia ora koutou, nā mai haere mai. Welcome, everybody. Just before we get underway, could I ask people, just in true student style, to bunch in a little bit towards the centre, please? We may have a few late arrivals, and when there's the spare seat right in the middle of the row, it makes it a little bit difficult for people to access. So move in together, make new friends, and just give everybody an opportunity to sit down, and then we'll get going.
For me to begin? And I'm going to stand in front of the lectern. Is that okay? Yeah. Tēnā koutou katoa. No mai tauti mai ki te rangai putaia. E te mana whenua nai tua hureri, tēnā koutou. Ko te hua te monga, ko kaneri te roto, ko arahura te awa, no hokatika aho, no tēnei maka mai araini o kutupuna, ko David Conradson tōku ingoa. Ko o te amo putaia. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I want to offer you a really warm welcome to the College of Science here at the University of Canterbury. It's a real pleasure for us to have you with us today from wherever you've come from, whether it's very close by from Burnside High School or across from the east of the city or further out from Rolleston or to the west of the city. You've all navigated traffic and you've done very well to find this building in the heart of the campus. And what we're going to do tonight is give you a sense of some of the careers that are available to you if you were to choose to study science here at the University of Canterbury. I'm thinking that you're here because you already have an interest in science, that you're at least a little bit curious about it, that there's something that might have caught your attention or sparked your imagination at school. And I want to offer you the idea that we're at a really critical time as a species. You only have to open the newspaper if you've ever come across such a thing, or looked at this thing called Facebook, to get a sense that we're in a world that has a convergence of lots of really pressing issues, and to grapple with them we need young people like you to be educated in depth and with rigour, and for you to be able to follow your passions about things that are really meaningful for you. So we're going to introduce you tonight, Sarah will lay out the program in a moment, to some people who have studied science, particular fields, and have made that part of their emerging life work, something that really makes them get out of bed in the morning, which is a key thing. And and as a way in which they're contributing to the way that our world is unfolding day by day, month by month, the kind of trajectories that we're on as a species, as a civilization. Towards the end of tonight, you'll hear a little bit about some of the programs of study that we have on offer here at UC, the Bachelor of Science, the Bachelor of Environmental Science, the Bachelor of Data Science, and the Bachelor of Speech and Language Pathology. Programs that will allow you to deepen your knowledge in things that you've studied at school and also things that you've never come across before. So Sarah, my colleague, is going to tell you a little bit more about the structure of the evening, but I really hope that it's an interesting and engaging time for you, and we hope that if this is a place that you feel might be for you, that we'll see you again in the future. There's other activities, open days coming up this year. There's plenty of material online. This is just the beginning.
Well, kia ora kapai, David. Thank you very much. I'll just move over here slightly so that I can be seen on the live stream. So this session is being live streamed as well, so kia ora to everybody who's joining us online. My name's Associate Professor Sarah Masters. I'm an academic within the School of Physical and Chemical Sciences here at the University of Canterbury. It's my great pleasure to MC this evening. There's an enormous rocket here as well, which I'm hopeful is going to tie in with one of our presentations in just a moment. So I will just give you a little health and safety briefing and then an outline of how I got to be standing here today doing this as part of my role here at the University of Canterbury. And then we've got a fantastic array of speakers all lined up over here who you will hear from, and they've had very different journeys to where they are today. And so it'll be fantastic to hear from them around their career trajectory to date, the studies that they've done and how that has helped them. Excuse me. And then we'll have Alana and Dan from our liaison group who will just help you, or as David said, introduce those new degrees and outline what the next steps might be towards enrolment at the University of Canterbury. And then I believe the highlight of the evening is the pizza. So we've got some pizza lined up as well. So hopefully, and that's a real opportunity as well to actually talk one-to-one with our speakers and with our student helpers, who I will introduce in a moment. So just briefly with the health and safety, obviously we are a no-smoking campus. This includes cigarettes, vaping, and whatever other forms of smoking have been invented in the last week. So just don't do it, kids. It's not good for you, okay? I should highlight that the bathrooms are just outside and turn right. We have disabled disability access bathrooms down there as well if required. Okay. Can I also remind you to put your phones on silent, and I will check mine when I go and sit down. I think it's on silent, but it is quite off-putting for our presenters if phones do beep. So if you could just put them on silent, that would be much appreciated. You may have felt we had a little bit of a wobble earlier today, and so earthquake procedure as standard. If there is an earthquake, then we drop, cover, and hold. In here, your best bet is just to hang on to the desk in front of you. When the shaking has stopped, we'll make a decision on what to do. But generally, the procedure is that we follow the people who look like they know what they're doing, so they generally have a science T-shirt on, generally our student helpers. And the muster point is just outside at the front here of what we call C-block lawn. Might have been a bit dark when you were coming in, but there's a big grassed area. We'll assemble there. And that's the same assembly if there's a fire or any other emergency as well. And then we'll guide you from there. It's not going to happen, but we have to be prepared. And just a reminder that if you do need any help at any point, we have our helpers ably demonstrating here. So it's Ben. I was about to call you Dan, sorry. Ben and Izzy are demonstrating here. So we've got one in a grey top and Izzy in a red top there. And they'll be around to help you with any queries and questions that you have. Now, on your way in, you may have received a contact card. Hands up if you've got a contact card. Got some? Yep, like this. If you don't have one, do you want to just let our helpers know now? They'll come round and give them out, and then Anna has a box here that we can put those in. And there is a prize, as I understand it. There are some prizes, so we'll draw some names out of our virtual hat or box at the end of the evening, and you win a prize. So please do fill those in for us. Okay, let's let Ben and Izzy know on the way round. So I said that I would give you just a brief introduction to me, who I am and how I got here. And it will be brief because I'm not the attraction, it's these wonderful people standing over here. But my journey to the University of Canterbury and to be here today is one very much of resilience and opportunity. And basically when giving up isn't an option. So as you may be able to tell from my accent, I'm not actually a Kiwi by birth. This is where I grew up. Now, it does look like New Zealand, but in fact, it's southwest Scotland, and that's where I was born and raised. And from there, I went to the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and that's where I studied. I did my degree, my undergraduate degree, postgraduate degree, and also started my research career there as well. And these are some of the influential people who helped me on the way. From there, I then got what's called a research fellowship. And what that enabled me to do is spend time doing research that I was really, really passionate and interested in. And I said that I was a chemist, but there's lots of different types of chemistry, as hopefully you're learning as you're going through school. And I am not what is called a synthetic chemist. I don't go into a lab and make things. Rather, I investigate things. So I like to think of these little people at the top of the screen there as my main synthetic projects during my fellowship. And really it shows that it is possible to have a family, to have children, and to have a career as well. And I think that's really important nowadays, that that message is reinforced. And so this is briefly what I do. And again, if you have an interest in chemistry, I look at molecules. Okay, now we can't look at molecules just by picking them up and looking at them. We have to have special tools to investigate them. And that's what I do using the apparatus that you can see there, which is based in our new Ernest Rutherford building, which hopefully many of you have had the opportunity to visit. Now, I said I was educated in Edinburgh, so how did I end up in Christchurch? Well, at the time, there weren't that many jobs in the UK for my area of chemistry, and New Zealand was hiring in that area, and so I took a big chance. So when I moved to the University of Canterbury, I did not visit the university before I came, and I did not visit Christchurch before I came either, because I was quite heavily pregnant with my second synthetic project, and I couldn't travel, okay? And so just literally, I couldn't travel, I couldn't fit in the airplane seat, and I couldn't get insurance. So I took a chance on the University of Canterbury, and really importantly, the University of Canterbury took a real chance on me because we hadn't connected with each other. Everything, the interview process was done virtually. Now, nowadays, that might seem normal. 10 to 11 years ago, it was very unusual, actually. And so I relocated from Edinburgh to Christchurch. This is about as far away from home as I could get. By the time I got to Australia, I was a little bit over the travelling, but Australian immigration said, no, keep going. And I landed in Christchurch, and it was fantastic. Landed into 35-degree heat, beautiful rivers, fantastic surroundings. And it was fabulous for about 5 weeks because I arrived in January 2011. Okay, so what happened in February 2011? Okay, this happened. Okay, I've been here 5 weeks when this happened. And so I talk about resilience and opportunity. They shut the airport, I couldn't leave, and by the time they reopened it, then it was clear that actually there was a lot of opportunity here at the university and within the city as well, so I took the opportunity to stay. And that opportunity has come. Okay, so we have these fantastic new facilities here at the University of Canterbury, particularly for science. We've got our fabulous Ernest Rutherford Regional Science and Innovation Centre, and we've got our new offices, and lots of our college staff are in those offices now, and we're all co-located, and it's out of a tragedy has come a real opportunity to invest in the future, and that is what the university has done. And so all of our teaching labs, for example, are in this new building. If you haven't been to visit it, please do so. It's one of these buildings that you walk into and you go, wow, okay, it really is fantastic. So I've also been involved nationally and internationally in leadership roles. So the New Zealand Institute of Chemistry is our governing body for chemistry within New Zealand, and I'm the past president of that. I also sit on the executive board of a new initiative called Commonwealth Chemistry, but that opportunity arose out of my involvement with the New Zealand Institute of Chemistry. The message that I'm trying to get to you is where you have the opportunities, take them, because you don't know where it will lead. And I suspect that will be the message that's coming from our speakers today as well. And I was supposed to be on the beach there in May last year. That's Trinidad and Tobago. Should have gone there for our inaugural conference. Clearly that didn't happen because we were all locked down, making sourdough. And so instead we moved online. We have online congresses. And just last week, actually, we're just off the back of our inaugural Congress for Commonwealth Chemistry, which I was scientific chair of. Okay. So there's huge opportunity out there. You just have to go and find it and take it. So as I said, life is not about how fast you run or how high you climb, but how well you bounce. So life will always throw things at you, and it's around the real measure is how you cope with that and how you adapt to that and how you move out of that and take the opportunities that are presented to you. And just one final thing is that, as an academic, when I actually am let out of the university into the real world, so you go to the supermarket, for example, and you meet the students, and they're like, whoa, what are you doing here? It's like, well, I'm allowed to eat. Okay, so this is what I do when I'm not in here doing my job. This is my hobby as well. So science is a hobby, and then the horses and the dogs keep me sane as well. And horses are a great leveler, and believe me, you certainly learn to bounce when you have them around because you tend to fall off them rather a lot. So that's me, that's who I am. And so now it's a real opportunity to introduce our speakers, because that's one journey through. How do I close this? But there are lots of other journeys and careers that can be taken. So I've put my notes down. Oh, they'll put them down over here. This is what happens when you get old. You forget your glasses, and you also forget where you put things down. So today, we have 5 speakers. Hurrah! Well done, welcome, kia ora. Lovely that you're here. So our first speaker is Philipp Swilltrop, and he began his career with a bachelor in mechanical engineering before completing a master's in aeronautics and astronautics engineering and a PhD in electrical and computer engineering from UC. He's an engineer, okay? And he followed his passion. I mentioned the rocket earlier. He followed his passion in engineering and exploration towards his career as an aerospace engineer. And he's now the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer at Kia Aerospace, which is a technology startup based here in Christchurch. So Philip, I would like to invite you up, and we will find your presentation. You know what it's called better than me. That's fabulous. And your slide advancer is also there.
Do you want me to use anything?
Oh, yes, that's right. Good point. There we go, if we can just pop that.
Yep. Let's see if this works. Hello? This is good enough? Higher? Yeah, hello everyone. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey, and I guess the idea is there for you to kind of figure out where your opportunities lie by kind of matching it to your interests. And I think that's the first key part. Figure out what do you want to do and why. And my why is kind of summarized in this quote, which I changed a little bit. It says, anything someone can imagine, others can make real, which is kind of the idea of science and engineering. And I changed this quote on purpose because it originally said, anything one man can imagine, other men can make real. And if you look around and just guess the gender ratio here, then you see why that's quite important to change. Because it's not just about men doing things and men doing things in science, but it's the same for girls, young women, and grown-up women. So, as Sarah mentioned, I'm coming from engineering, but the longer you go on that journey in engineering, so let's say in an academic world, the more you get into the science. So engineering is usually what you do, you combine knowledge. Science, on the other hand, is usually figuring out why things work and how they work. And once we consider it as understood, we move that into the engineering side of words. And if you then combine both of these things, then like we talk about research and development. And that's pretty much like my world over there, research and development. That's what I love doing. And early on in my bachelor's degree, I think it was the 3rd semester, I had really a lot of luck, and I got a job with the German Aerospace Center. I really had to grow into that job because since I was that early in my journey, I literally knew nothing. But they gave me this massive opportunity, and in the end, I stayed there till I finished both of my degrees in Germany, so I stayed there for around 3.5 years. But the really fun part was pretty much where everything located. So you see, this is the airport there in the town where I studied, and that airport was pretty much only used for scientific and engineering purposes. So no real, there were no passenger jets or passenger planes really taking off from there. So this area here over there, that was one of the German Aerospace Center locations. All over here were all of the institutes for aviation, which meant like during the week I was just traveling between the two for work. So I worked roughly like 1 full day at the Aerospace Center, and the rest of the time I spent here for my lectures. And during my work, I worked mostly on these 2 unmanned aircraft, an unmanned helicopter and unmanned plane. I was mostly working on the flight mechanics, which means it's like you try to model how that plane is flying so that then other engineers can do, for example, the control systems and in the visualization and the whole flight planning. A third important part that I'm going to talk about, it's also here. In one of the basements of these institutes, we had our Rocketry Club, which I joined later on. And they did a lot of cool stuff, and I really recommend that to you. Don't just study. I would say really look beside of what you can do, and especially being a student, you have a lot of opportunities, and the biggest opportunity that you have is flexibility, because you're not really working from 9 to 5, but you have all these lectures and you have more time available. Make use of that by doing stuff that you really love, and that can be, for example, the university clubs. I don't know how many clubs there are, but there are a lot of clubs here. I would have, if I was younger, I would have joined, for example, the UC Aerospace Club here, which does exactly the same what I have been doing in Germany while I was studying there, or the Formula Student Club. There will be more scientific clubs, I'm pretty sure, around that. Or if you're just going out in the field to do field experiments, you might want to join the Tramping Club, which might prepare you a little bit more about preparing a long field trip, navigation, and finding the right time. That's part of your scientific experiment. As part of my club, we built rockets, usually something like these rockets, a little bit smaller, like up to 2 meters long. Part of my job was, for example, the whole parachute system. And the coolest project we did was a project that was funded by the government, where they literally gave us, I think, probably $500,000 to students and said, build a rocket and launch it somewhere up in North Sweden, like in the north of Sweden, which was this rocket here. And we were actually the first team ever to launch a hybrid rocket from that polar launch base. And hybrid rocket means you have like part solid, part liquid fuel in that rocket. And you see all of these connections there, which were for the fueling process. And since it was very cold, I think we had just a little bit under maybe -5 degrees, all of these systems had to work fully frozen. As part of my research, actually also my work now, and of this club, we also did a lot of high altitude research where we used balloons. And the building of the balloon, again, that's kind of the engineering. You build the balloon, you launch the balloon, you get it back. But what you do with the data, that's technically the science. So you get a lot of cool opportunities because a balloon usually is there to have a payload in it to measure something. This could be anything, atmospheric data, temperature. I think there's kind of a cool project starting up here at UC about measuring potential microplastics in the atmosphere, which is similar to microplastics in the ocean and would be pretty bad. And that's what you can do with these kind of systems. They usually go up to like 30 kilometers, I think. This one here is a burst of a balloon. I think it was 33 kilometers. If you get up there, it looks like this. pretty much like space, but it is not space. This is probably my favorite picture that we ever took because of this, because we had the moon in there too. Might also be the Death Star or something. So then after I finished my master's, I wanted to do a PhD because there were a few things that I wanted to do before actually working. And I looked everywhere in the world to figure out, to find the right research project, which I couldn't, surprisingly. And then I found this small company that had just launched this rocket here. I thought, man, they're doing really cool stuff. And I found that they had a research project in conjunction with university here. By now, you probably have heard of that small company. It's not so small anymore. It's Rocket Lab. But that's what they were doing at the time. They've progressed quite a lot by now. And yeah, at the university here, that's where then the real science started. So I brought you here one of these rockets. Oh, might be in the way. So let's maybe watch the video first. So this launch was very special because it was just supersonic, while at the same time controlled. And that mountain up there is Mount Cook, by the way. So you also get pretty cool launch locations. Kind of rocket got mixed with field work. So the special part about our rockets is that they have these canards here in the front. These canards are control surfaces, so they move around, and they pretty much steer the rocket, or they guide the rocket. And our scientific part was to figure out how we do that very, very accurately. And you see these red boards, so this is all the electronic. And the problem that we were investigating here was something around control reversal. So imagine you're driving at 100 kilometers in your car, you want to overtake, everything is fine. You steer right, car goes right, you steer left, car goes left. But then you go up to 110, and suddenly that reverses. So you steer right, but the car goes left. Once you go to 120, suddenly everything is right again. So you can imagine that is pretty funny and pretty challenging. And at transonic speeds, so at Mach 0.8 to 1.1, we could pretty much show that this is happening in this rocket. And then we did some further research on that, just to give you an example what research or science in this area would look like. By now, I'm kind of back to unmanned aircraft. So now the CTO at Aerospace, and we're developing this lovely aircraft here, which, if we would build it, would probably be the largest unmanned aircraft designed in the Southern Hemisphere, with a wingspan of around 32 meters. So that's around 16 times me. And it would fly in the stratosphere, so at 20 kilometers, to be some kind of pseudo-satellite. So the idea is to take Earth observation images much, much closer to the ground. So the problem is that Earth observation satellites are not as good as we think. So you might have heard of James Bond. It's like, oh, give me the number plate. But the response would be, first of all, there's no satellite there right now. And secondly, we're not even sure that car has a number plate. That's how bad they are. So that's why we're building this here. So the reason why we're doing this is that there are massive gaps, and they are, again, related to science. For example, in environment. Right now, we have to work with data sets that are up to 4 years old sometimes, and that creates massive problems. Smart cities. We always talk about it, but no one can actually do something right now because we don't have the data for it. And in New Zealand, we also have then big gaps in forestry, precision agriculture, maritime surveillance, illegal fishing, and disaster management. Interestingly enough, one of the high-resolution image sets that we have in Christchurch happened 2 days after the earthquake, because suddenly we needed it. But otherwise, it's just too expensive to do it all the time. I mentioned this. Interestingly enough, this aircraft is huge, so it would not fit into this room, while at the same time it only weighs 100 kilograms. So we have some really, really funky engineering challenges. And we are all doing this here from Christchurch. The idea is to operate them from here. Even if we would operate them, let's say, overseas, the control center is planned to be here in Christchurch. And otherwise, I think you have to ask me any questions now, because I've been running for 24 hours over the weekend, including 12 hours of night, and I'm very, very tired, so I'm going home after this. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions.
Well, Kapai, Philip, thank you so much for that. And yes, we do have time for questions, and we'll do questions at the end of each speaker. So if anybody has a general question, then they feel free to ask it. And we have hopefully some student helpers who'll pop round with the microphone, so we can record those or capture them for those watching online. And then there will be an opportunity to meet most of our speakers, but not Philip, because he needs to go to bed. All right. Do we have any general questions that people would like to ask just now? Trying to see hands around the place. Okay, well, perhaps I'll kick off. So your PhD, was that a standard 3-year PhD, or did that take a little bit longer to do?
Always takes longer, especially in aerospace. I think every PhD that includes technical development takes a bit longer, because you can't just sit down and research in the library. You actually have to build something, launch it. I think I did roughly 20 real launches and 150 wind tunnels in a very specific wind tunnel just behind the next 2 buildings. So that takes a bit of time. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I'm quite happy with how fast it was.
And how did you get involved with Kia Aerospace? I wasn't 100% sure on the link there.
Pretty much technically founded it together with the first co-founder or director of Rocket Lab, Mark Rocket. Right. Which is kind of weird because it all goes in circles all the time.
So presumably you all talk to each other? Yes, very much so. Cool. Yeah, I'll just come with the microphone.
Hi. What is your job title, number 1? And 2, what's the kind of entry-level salary for somebody in your career?
Job title is Chief Technology Officer. Also, to be honest, it's pretty much made up for me. I can call myself what I want, probably. In terms of salary, it's difficult to answer because it's a startup, so it follows very, very different rules, which usually means you start very, very low. Sometimes you can start lower than everyone else, and if it goes well, you end up really, really well. So it's technically a bit of a gamble, and you hope that you know what you're doing and that your team is good. So yeah, difficult to answer.
Yeah, so startup models do have different ways of operating compared to a kind of bigger company. I saw Air New Zealand there, for example. It's not quite the same. Right, one more question up here. Hang on.
So you mentioned it a little bit, but like, why did you? Sorry, you mentioned it a little bit, but why did you get into engineering and the specific type of engineering? Like, what's your why, I guess?
I love working on the limit, which technically is also part of the science, because it says working on something where you don't know how it works. And the other thing is, like, especially engineering, I never wanted to go into the, let's say, boring types of engineering, what's for me boring, you know, like, for example, if I had gone in car engineering, I would have gone into race cars, Formula 1 or something like that. But a normal car for me is not so exciting, because if something goes wrong, you just stop it, you pull it back into the garage, you work on it, and you move it out again. If you have something going wrong with a rocket or a plane, you're in trouble, right? So you have to really think hard about it. Like, stretching the limits is a bit more exciting, and it's a very different type of work environment. And that's pretty much why I do it. And as I mentioned, I think every one of you has to figure out, why would you do something? And, you know, like, would you get out of the bed every morning and think like, yeah, science day at uni? You know, if you think that, then you probably pick the right degree. It's that easy.
Yeah, very much so. Follow your passion, definitely. And Philip earlier mentioned the investigations into plastics in the atmosphere, and that's being done by my colleagues in physical and chemical sciences. So thank you very much. I think in view of time, we probably need to move on. I do have a little gift and a thank you card for you. So this is on behalf of the University of... he's disappeared. This is on behalf of the University of Canterbury and Science. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for staying awake. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Well done. Yes, you got it, yeah, okay. Yes, don't forget the rocket. I guess getting that in hand luggage on the plane is quite interesting. Okay, our next speaker is Lisa Xu, who is a researcher at the New Zealand China Water Research Centre based here in Christchurch. She has a PhD in molecular microbiology and a Master of Science in biochemistry. And her career goal, or one of the things that she's really passionate about working on, is eliminating nitrate from drinking water, which is a real problem both here in New Zealand and globally as well. She's currently involved in several different projects, and like the rest of us, I think, doesn't just consider it a job, but considers it a passion. So Lisa, thank you so much. I'm very much looking forward to hearing about your career trajectory to date.
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you.
Hello. It's not very loud. Okay. Hello. Tēnā koto, tēnā koto, tēnā koto katoa. Kia ora whānui. Ko Lisa toku inoa. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa, and today I'm going to take you through my journey in science. But my talk is a little bit different, so just bear with me. Science knows no country because knowledge belongs to humanity, and is the torch which illuminates the world, said Louis Pasteur. He is the father of germ theory and the greatest microbiologist. From a very young age, I love looking through things through microscope because I know those tiny little microbes are very important to the world. As a scientist, I was involved in many, many different projects, and one of which is I take a section of the gene. That gene expresses green fluorescent protein and insert that gene into bacteria, so those bacteria can fluoresce under the microscope, so that we can understand how they interact with each other, how bacteria communicate with each other, and, for example, how they interact with tiny worms, such as nematode. I also inoculate those bacteria into ryegrass seed because I want to understand how they interact with plant root and how they promote plant growth. So these are genetic modified microorganism bacteria I inoculate with ryegrass seeds so that they can promote grass growing. Back in 2017, I interviewed Chloe and James. And in that 1.5 hour of interview, we discussed about carbon emission and what we can do to reduce greenhouse gas. And the conversation with Chloe and James has inspired me tremendously. And they are the one who brought my attention to nitrogen cycle, which is the next phase of my research, greenhouse gas and nitrate leaching. So, does anybody in this room knows how much greenhouse gas we emit in New Zealand every year? You get a chocolate. A lot. Too much. How much? Oh, we need just a number. Huh? 100 tons. Yes. Oh, Good, good. It's the closest number. Okay. Each year in New Zealand, we emit 78.9 million tons of greenhouse gas. 78.9 million tons every year. That's a lot, isn't it? Yes. And what are greenhouse gas? Greenhouse gas, 44.5% are carbon dioxide, 43.5% are methane, 9.6% are nitrous oxide, and 2.4% are fluorinated gases. So, does anybody know why we talk about nitrous oxide when it's only accounted for 9.6% of the total greenhouse gas emission? And why is it so important? Chocolate? Yes? Yes, exactly. Because nitrous oxide is 265 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And it's doing a lot more damaging to the environment than we can imagine. So, but it doesn't get talked about often enough. So where does nitrous oxide come from? The majority of them comes from the primary sector, which is agriculture. But let's take a deeper look at the nitrogen cycle. When we apply ammonia as a nitrogen fertilizer to soil, for growing vegetable, plant, root, grass, those ammonia quickly oxidize to hydroxylamine and then quickly converts to nitrous oxide because by those tiny little microbes found in soil. And those soil microorganisms can also oxidize nitrate to nitrite, then to nitrate, and then nitrate leaching occurs. Does anyone know what does nitrate do to our environment? Yes. Yes, eutrophication. Yes, exactly. Thank you, thank you. Over there. Eutrophication. Unswimmable rivers and lakes. Look at those algae bloom. They release toxins that are poisonous to us. But let's look at nitrate leaching. Other land use, such as forestry. Forestry release about 2 milligrams of nitrate per liter of water. Sheep, grassland, release about 4 milligrams of nitrate per liter of water. Beef, dairy, cropping land, and guess what? Horticulture releases more nitrate into the environment and is doing a lot of damaging to our environment. So what do we say? Horticulture is like growing vegetables and fruit. But then what do we do? No more vegetable, no more fruit. No, it's not gonna happen, right? Because at the end of the day, we all got to eat. So here comes my mission. My mission is to eliminate the first reaction of ammonia oxidation so that we can reduce nitrous oxide and reduce nitrate leaching altogether. So that we can have swimmable rivers, lakes, and clean water for everyone and for many, many generations to come. Today's science is tomorrow's technology. And yes, we are relying on all of you. You are the future scientists. We need you. I believe with better management system, we can fight this together. we can fight climate change, and we can have a sustainable, healthy agri-ecosystem, and we can have a better place for everyone in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Thank you very much.
Kapai Lisa, thank you so much for that. I certainly, my 2 synthetic projects at home would totally be on board with the no fruit and veg, but yeah, they're not here tonight. So. Oh. All right then, so we have plenty of time for some questions. So once again, hands up, and then we'll do the UC sprint up and down the stairs. It's part of our health and fitness campaign. So anybody right at the back? Oh, yep, okay.
Yes.
Is your project jointly funded by China and New Zealand? Are you?
Only New Zealand.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good question around how these projects are funded. So how is it funded? I mean, what's the funding? Is it a funding body or
Yes,
government funding?
New Zealand government.
Government
yes,
funding,
yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, yep, up there. Go on, Amy. If you just hold fire for a second, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes. In the horticultural segment, if they go to organic type principles, does that reduce the nitrogen problem?
That I'm not quite sure, but in theory, probably not, because at the end of the day, nitrate is come from nitrogen, right? So nitrogen, we need nitrogen to grow fruit, vegetable, and grass, and it's so fundamental. So at the end of the day, if without better management, nitrogen is going to turn into nitrate anyway. Yeah, so it has to be managed, yes, because it's either going that direction or go to nitrous oxide, no matter what. Just because we are growing, because we have more demand for food now than ever. Yes, so we just need to manage it rather than, it's not gonna be eliminated altogether, but we just need to manage it better and not going down to waterway. But we can, with a type of bacteria called Anamox, you can reduce nitrate to nitrogen. But Anamox is very difficult to grow. But with the right type of bioreactor and right condition, you can reduce nitrate to nitrogen, not nitrous oxide. So that going the other direction. So it's doable, but just need better management.
There was a question here.
How long did you spend studying, and also do you know how much progress you've already made?
Much progress.
With your current project around the reducing nitrogen.
Yes.
Reducing the production, of nitrous oxide and nitrates.
Okay, how long? So I went through Canterbury University and I did master, and then I did my PhD, and then I go through this program.
So a degree is normally probably it'd be an honours degree or masters. Masters. So 5 years,
yes.
And then another 3 minimum.
But
PhD,
I get paid for my PhD though. I get paid scholarship, and it's like a salary. So for me, doing PhD is like every day doing a job and doing. Especially doing the things that I love doing. Yep. So that's different. It's like I going to work, but it's doing what I love doing. So it's really it's what makes me wake up every day. How much of that nitrogen? Well, the study has been going on for a very long time. In the group I'm in, Professor Hong Di and Professor Keith Cameron, they have been in this field for the past 30 years. And nitrogen is still an ongoing problem because we have agriculture, we have horticulture. But what I'm saying today is that by converting agricultural land to horticulture, you are just shifting the problem from nitrous oxide to nitrate leaching. So if you ban one, say if you ban agriculture, and then you move on to the horticulture, but you create another problem. So at the end of the day, we will have problem, but we just need to manage it.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to land management and
Yes,
how it's actually done, and trying to fix the nitrogen so it doesn't then escape into the waterways in particular. So there's lots of different projects going on in that area. It's very, very, very complex.
It's very complicated
going on in the background.
Soil is complicated.
No, soil is really hard to study as well.
And those damaging are because of all those microbes in soil.
Cool.
Yes.
Really quick one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll move on.
With a project like yours, do you have a time limit? You know, does your project maybe have 5 years to run, and do you have a set amount of money that's funding it, or can it just keep going?
No, we have a set amount of money. The project is not. It will be. It's about for MB project about 5 years.
Yep.
Some of other project could be 2 to 3 years. Yes. And then we have to reapply for fundings. Yes.
Yep. So you need some measurable outcomes.
Yes.
All right. And I think in the interest of time, we will move on. But Lisa will be around afterwards. So do feel free to find her afterwards to have a wee chat if you're a little bit too shy, perhaps, to ask questions now. Lisa, on behalf of the University of Canterbury, hang on, disappear down behind the computer, and the College of Science, I'd like to give you this as a token of our appreciation for your efforts today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so our next speaker, thank you so much for that, Lisa. Our next speaker is Hidayat, who is a software engineering manager at Verizon Connect. You may have heard of that company. It's one of the world's largest telematics providers. Telematics is an interdisciplinary field encompassing telecommunications, vehicle technologies, and computer science. So a really broad interdisciplinary field. He actually began his formal education at Lincoln University. I'm assuming that's the Lincoln just down the road, not the one in the UK. Good, yep, right, okay, or the one in America, with a double degree in applied computing and business management, before pursuing a PhD in computer science here at the University of Canterbury. So Ray, over to you.
Yeah. It's great to see everyone here today. I hope you're all excited. I'm really pleased to see so many people interested in their career. So my name's Ray. Yes, I work for Verizon Connect. I'm a software engineer, computer scientist, computer programmer. There's many different words. Can I actually start by asking you a question? How many people have coded something before? Can you put your hand up? Oh, that's cool. Well, that's pretty exciting. So that's what I do. So today I'm going to tell you about something cool which I coded in my career. So Verizon Connect is a pretty big company. We've got 1,000 people all over the globe. In Christchurch, we have 250. And this is a picture of my team sometime last year. We went out to play Laser Strike. There's about 30 people. I really love them, and I really love shooting them in Laser Strike too. It's pretty great. But yes, we do so many things at Verizon Connect. The thing which I'm going to tell you about today is this. So we make algorithms which make the world more efficient. What does that mean? Well, just imagine you've become the owner of a delivery company. Every day you've got 1,000 packages to deliver. And let's say you've got maybe 10 different trucks to deliver them with. That's quite a lot of planning. Every day you need to figure out which driver is going to do which job, and you need to figure out the sequence which they're going to do those jobs in. And there might be all kinds of difficult constraints. Maybe certain jobs require refrigeration, so they can only be in certain vehicles, for example. Or maybe they might involve hazardous materials, and so only certain drivers with licenses can handle those. So you need to do a lot of planning. You need to figure out an efficient way to do all the work with all of your trucks and get it all done. Now, wouldn't it be great if you could press a magic button, you could input all your data, and everything would just just come out. It'd just be sorted out for you. Something would plan it for you. Well, that is what I build. So this is a picture of a real data set. These are 1,000 real deliveries which a company needed to make. And my algorithm has gone along. It has planned which driver is going to do which job. And you can see it up here. So all the different colors are the 10 different drivers who are doing the different jobs, planned completely automatically. So that's pretty cool. These days, we optimize 4 million deliveries every day. I'm really excited about that, but what's even more exciting about that is 10 years ago when I started the company, we were doing 0 deliveries per day. And so that's the story which I'm going to tell you about today. It all started 10 years ago. I was just a young boy. I had just graduated from university with my PhD. Back then, Verizon Connect did a lot of different things. They do a lot of fleet tracking, which tells you where your vehicles are. But we thought it'd be cool to do something really smart. So the founder of the company decided to start a team. He hired me as a computer scientist, as well as 2 other people. And we were just a team of 3. We had a big mission. We were going to create this massive route optimization branch of the business. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't know if this was going to take a long time or a short time, if this was going to be an easy thing to do or a hard thing to do. Turns out it's really difficult. I'm going to tell you why it is so difficult to do. So I've got a bit of an analogy. So this is a standard deck of cards. There are 52 cards. I'm sure you've seen one of these before. Did you know there are 10 to the power of 68 permutations of a standard deck of 52 cards? So one permutation, that's when you take a deck of cards and you shuffle it out, and you shuffle it out in a particular sequence. That sequence is one permutation. So there are 10 to the power of 68. That's a lot. If we had every human on Earth, all 7 billion people, stop what they're doing, no sleeping, no eating, just shuffling cards for the next 1 million years, they would only cover basically 0% of this number. It's more like 0.0. There are about 40 zeros, and there's a 1%. It's so small, even with all of that effort. If you think about that, what that means is that if you ever take a deck of cards and you shuffle them and you play them with your friends, you are the only people in all of history who will ever play that deck of cards. And not just all of history, but all of the future. No one in humankind will ever play that deck because there are just too many permutations. Isn't that amazing? That's just 52 cards. But what happens if you have more than 50 cards? What happens if we have 1,000 cards? That's the problem which I deal with. The number of permutations of this problem is astounding. Even if we had all of the supercomputers in the world and we ran them for millions of years, we couldn't even get 0% of the number of combinations of this problem. So what we need to do is we need to come up with really smart algorithms. They need to intelligently search through the space of solutions. And that's what I do. That was my job. My job was to solve this massively difficult problem. So it was really interesting. When we started, you start the normal way. You look at what scientific research there is already, and you start with the best you can find. So we started with something which was quite basic. We tried to make a product out of it, and we tried to sell it to people, but no one wanted it at the time. So we tried to improve it. We tried to improve it a little bit more, but we were just making these incremental improvements, and it wasn't enough. So what I realized we had to do is we needed to completely change what we were doing. We needed to fundamentally find a new algorithm to solve this problem. So that's what I set out to do. So I spent years trying to find this new algorithm which would save the world, change everything. I was really excited. I think whenever you do research like this, it often follows a similar pattern. where you start off, you're trying lots of different ideas, you're broadly searching, and then at some point you find a particular idea which you think is promising, and then you start putting a lot of energy into that. So around 2 years in, I found a solution which I thought was really promising. It was working beautifully on these small, simple problems. And I thought, what if we could take this idea and we could extend it out and solve the realistic, real-world, complex problems which we need to solve normally? So I thought I was on the cusp of something brilliant and amazing. I was very excited, so I started spending a lot of my time on this. I tried to create new variations of this algorithm, tried to add things to it, remove things from it, change it in different ways. I tried to find the way to make it work and make it solve everything we wanted it to do. And I did this for years. I did this for quite a few years. But yeah, it was around 4 years in that I realized what I had done for the past 4 years is I had thoroughly, conclusively, and utterly proven that this method would not work. I couldn't believe how much time I had wasted. I wasn't just spending my normal hours on it. I was spending my nights on it. I was spending my weekends. I was missing people's birthdays because I thought that I had this brilliant algorithm and I just needed a little bit more time. But it turns out it was a waste. So I reached 4 years and I just thought, I don't want to waste even one more second on this. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go out and do all the things which I should be doing in my 20s. So yeah, I told myself, never going to look at this even one more time. I'm going to go away, and I went out and made friends. I learnt to play the guitar, learnt to skateboard. It was great. I had a good time. But yes, unfortunately, about 6 months later, I was talking to someone, and they gave me this idea, this technique, which they were using in their research. So I thought to myself, what am I going to do with this idea? I thought a light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, what if I could apply it to this problem I was working on? But then I said, I was never going to look at it ever again. Well, I thought I could give it around 2 minutes. So I opened up Google. I typed in this thing. It's super secret. I can't tell you what it is, sorry. And it turns out, as soon as I read this, within 10 seconds, I figured out the entire solution to my whole problem. It took years to go from the idea at that moment to an algorithm, but we built that algorithm, and it works exactly as expected. So now, these days, there are trucks which I can watch drive past me, and I know which trucks are our customers, and I can see that they were they were routed by me. The reason why they drove past me that day is because they ran through my algorithm. So that's pretty cool. I want to reflect on a couple of things which I learned from this experience. This one, one of our first customers was a family business, and they had 12 vehicles. They came to us because they were really struggling. The owner-operator said that he worked 7 days a week. So Monday to Friday, he did his normal job. Saturday and Sunday, he spent 20 hours just planning his routes. And that's because he wanted to meet all his requirements. He wanted to deliver every one of his customers every week. So he was so busy. He came to us, he was struggling. We took what he did in 20 hours every week into one click of a button in 2 minutes. And he said this. He said, "You gave me back weekends with my family." So he got to work just a normal Monday to Friday. So it made me realize what we can do. One more reflection, which I have. Some people might wonder if I'm frustrated that it took 10 seconds to figure this out. But you know what? It took 10 years for it to take 10 seconds. Everything which I learned, everything I learned at university, everything which I learned in high school, the 4 years of failure that I spent, that all contributed to this. I couldn't have done it if I hadn't spent all the time before. Lewis Pastor says, chance favors the prepared mind, and I prepared my mind. So that's my story. I want to say that every story is different. I think that software engineering is a really exciting area to work in. I think if you've ever used Google or TikTok or Zoom, I think you know what software can do for people, and it's a really great industry to be in. So thanks very much for listening.
Well, ka pai, thank you so much for that. And it sort of comes back to the message that I had at the beginning around resilience, opportunity. Yeah. So, you know, we're very much in a culture nowadays where if it doesn't happen in the next 10 seconds, then we don't want to know. But you really persevered, and as a consequence, you know, you now have this amazing, I guess, satisfaction as much as anything around what you've achieved. So that's fabulous. Okay, do we have any quick questions for Ray? Other than presumably you're a lot happier now than you were at the beginning.
Sure am.
Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. Yep.
Hi. So you did this fantastic algorithm. Are you credited with it, and has it made you very wealthy?
It's a recurring theme here.
This is a really tricky one because the algorithm is so advanced that we chose to not patent it, which is why I actually can't talk about it in the detail which I would like. I made a choice. This actually was my choice. I think this is the most likely path to success. And so my reward is seeing 4 million deliveries get optimized every day, hopefully more in the long term.
It's a wonderful attitude to take. One up there. Thank you very much.
Do you ever think you'll start a whole new algorithm all over again, like a whole brand new one, or will you keep on this one for the rest of your life?
I would love to. I think it's a lot of work. Yeah, I would love to. I have so many ideas. I've got a list of many ideas I want to crack. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, maybe learn a new instrument first and then go for it. All right. I think in the interest of time, we'll move on again. But thank you so much, Ray. And as I'm sure you're all working out on behalf of the University of Canterbury and the College of Science, I'd like to just give you this as a token of our appreciation, and hopefully that's some little payback for all those years of work that you put into that algorithm. Thank you so much.
Yeah?
Yeah, reasonably close to your mouth. So that's
Hopefully it doesn't fall on.
it should click in.
Oh, you help.
Oh, sorry, do you mind if I just...
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't fall.
that should be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Oh. So this one here?
This one.
Oh, this one here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So our next speaker is Athira Krishnakumar Nair. And she began her career in the IT sector after completing a Bachelor of Science in Stats in her home country of India. And then after completing a Master's in Applied Data Science, or a MADS, as we like to call it here at UC, she went straight into work as a data science at Pyper Vision, which is an aviation tech startup. And, you know, the company has done some really very interesting stuff, but in particular, one of the game-changing things that they've done recently is around drone-based technology that actually clears the fog from the airport so that aircrafts can move without fog interruptions. Are you going to tell us a little bit about... Right, okay, I won't go on. I actually know a little bit about this. I'm not going to go on too much about it. But I'm sure many of you have woken up one foggy Canterbury morning and gone, oh, drat, I can't go where I need to go. But what Athira is doing is working to combat that. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. When I say I am a data scientist, what is the first thing you all think I do? Any random guesses? Hold on to a computer. Well, that was like a good explanation. As a data scientist, this is what my mom thinks I do. She thinks I work inside a lab. This is what my, sorry, I was a bit fast. This is what my friends think I do. They think I work at the backstage of a Bond movie and do shit with data. This is what my client thinks I do. They think I'm a magician. And this is what society thinks I do. They think I build robots. Well, what I actually do is work with clients to build insights and uncover answers to major questions that helps organization to make objective decisions. Sometimes I get out on the field to collect live data and to giving hands in setting up the drone and dispersal system ready for operations. But whatever I do, I'm like comfortable, I'm more happy because I know the work that I'm doing is helping to change the world. So how did I get here? I grew up in India. I did my bachelor's in statistics. I'm thankful for my parents for giving me the privilege to choose what I love to do. And for that reason, I came to New Zealand. I did my master's in applied data science from University of Canterbury. At one stage, I was same as you all, sitting at the corner of the desk and thinking, what should be my next step? I was so confused. And being away from family was, I realized that it's not my cup of tea. But every time I faced new challenges, I just kept telling myself one thing. You have the capacity to leave a long-lasting impact and an amazing impression upon the world. So what helped me along the way? In New Zealand, especially in Christchurch, I believe it's a city of connection. People here will never forget your face and will provide all the support if they know that you have the passion and learning potential in you. Apart from my qualification, I made sure to set aside some time to go to industry events and reach out to industry leaders that's already in the field. To be honest, I was really a shy person to even ask a question in front of public. But curiousness, if you have the curiosity and the passion inside you, I am sure you can tackle anything in your life. That's what I did. Here, networking and meeting new people can lead to life-changing opportunities. During one such event, I met this incredible woman, Emily Blythe, who is the founder of Pyper Vision. She started her entrepreneurship journey when she was 16 years old. What an icon. Her mission is to eradicate fog at all airports. When I met Emily, she already had a team of chemical engineers and researchers working on the prototype. Pyper Vision have developed a heavy lift drone that disperses fog at airports. And this operation takes 10 minutes to complete, and it provides an extended visibility for up to 2 hours, ensuring safe airport operations. So when I met Emily, she was already working on the prototype, but what she was struggling is, she wanted someone who can quantify the disruption of fog at airports, because that's what will help her to attract the investors and at least communicate with the community the impact of this problem. So that's where my role comes into the picture. So as a data scientist, we collected heaps of data, weather, flight schedule data, and we analyzed that every year fog grounds over 37,000 aircraft and 52 million people, costing aviation industry $52 billion annually. Now, this is the real intensity of the problem we at Pyper Vision are trying to solve. There was, for example, there was a severe fog problem in Christchurch a few weeks before, causing several flights to get delayed, diverted, and cancelled. That day, our team tracked all the flight data, and it came out that there was a $1 million loss to the aviation industry for that one day. Imagine airports having 62 days of fog. For example, Hamilton Airport. This is the real intensity of the problem that we are trying to solve. And as a data scientist, this is what I do. I give numbers that helps her to communicate the intensity of the problem. It's quite often when you start your career, it's normal. You start doubting sometimes, am I going in the right path, or am I doing correctly? But keep reminding yourself just one thing. What good is an idea if it remains an idea? Try, experiment, iterate, fail, try again. Change the world. Thank you.
No, that's all good. Kapai for that. Thank you so much. And you know, when we sit and we look at the airport and we look at the weather, we don't necessarily think of the impact, particularly financially, which I would imagine at the moment for airlines is a real challenge for them. Alrighty. Do we have any questions for Athira? Yeah. Up there, if you just give me a moment, I'll come up with the microphone just so we can, those watching online can hear us.
Hi, I'd just be interested to know how you actually remove fog. Well, in a nutshell, how do you do it?
So we have our own chemical, which I cannot disclose here, but yeah, so there's a plug-and-play system that we have developed that's get attached to the drone, and we spray that powder to the atmosphere. So it gets mixed with the moisture, and then, yeah, it provides the visibility, like disperses fog.
I'm trying desperately to keep my mouth shut here as well, because I had some discussions with Emily early on in the piece. All right, here we go.
Is it a product that you're going to be able to use on grapevines and things with frost in that? Because right now they use helicopters to keep frost and fog away.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, I guess in relation to that question, the sooner you clear the fog, the sooner you can raise the temperature as well. So there's lots of climate control. You also have to think about the impact on the environment, which is, I'm sure you're doing. Yeah. There was a question at the top there.
Yeah, is the product or whatever it is eco-friendly?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. We have tested the powder, so it's quite environmental friendly. And then when we disperse, it leaves no residue in the ground, so it's quite safe for the aviation industry as well.
Yep. Cool. Okay, any other questions? I guess once again, how is this company funded? Is that through venture capital?
Yeah,
yep.
it was through venture capital, and then we do have a couple of investors as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And Callaghan Innovation as well. They were a lot of helpful.
Yeah.
With regards to building the prototype as well. Their engineering team was a part of them helping us to build that.
Lovely. Cool. Okay. All right then. Well, if there's no further questions, perhaps we could thank Athira again, and once again, on behalf of the University of Canterbury and the College of Science. So just a token of our appreciation for your time this evening. Thank you so much. lucky second last. Where's your talk, Flynn?
Me, Flynn.
Oh, sorry. I've not got my glasses on, so. There we go. Alrighty.
All right.
So the last of our presenters in this particular section of the evening is Flynn Adcock, who has a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry and is currently studying towards her Master of Science in Biochem. And he's also a lab technician at the Christchurch Clinical Studies Trust. So Flynn's actually started at UC as an adult student and took the Certificate of University Preparation course. And he actually came to UC as an adult student and found that course really helpful, having never taken science at high school, which is pretty phenomenal that you're now doing a master's in biochem. Flynn's also been incredibly modest in his bio that he provided, because he's actually the reigning Thesis in 3 champion for the University of Canterbury. So this is a university-wide competition. And you know, it's pretty spectacular for a student at master's level to win that competition. So well done, Flynn. I'm very much looking forward to what you have to say for us.
All right, awesome. Is this microphone loud enough? I've got a real loud voice. Okay. Or can I hold it? Is this okay?
It's more for the recording.
Oh, okay, cool. All righty. Awesome. So before anyone asks, Scion fund my research project. They're a Crown Research Institute up in Rotorua. And my supervisor and them came up with like this awesome business idea, research idea, and I got to participate in it. And my talk's a little bit different tonight. I'm not really focusing on my research too much, but I'm more focusing on my experience at university and how this might translate to people who are a little bit uncertain on where they want to go, what they want to do, what courses should they take, et cetera, et cetera. But first, a little bit about me, how I got here, what inspired me, all those kind of questions. So how did I get from this, drinking absinthe and export gold with my friend's father, to this, participating in a photo shoot for the winning of the thesis in 3 minutes? Well, I actually worked 7 years in retail after I left high school. And one of the things about retail is that it can be a fast-paced environment, can be pretty fun when you're a little younger, but can actually get really, really, really boring. And so I've actually worked about 7 years, 7 jobs, 1 per year sort of thing over those 7 years. They were low-income jobs. They were minimum wage, even though I was an essential worker at a supermarket, still paid pretty crappily. And they quickly became boring. One of the reasons I moved around from job to job so much is because they were really, really stale and not much happened. But now I'm consistently challenged. So every day I come in, there's always like a new problem to tackle, something to think about, or an issue that you can kind of talk about with a team of people or your colleagues. So yeah, you're surrounded with like-minded people. So if you choose a sort of passion or I guess a discipline, you'll be surrounded by people with those same kind of perspectives, which is really nice. And it's innovative science, right? We're standing on the forefront of science here. We're looking out, we don't know much. What can we do? What problems can we address, whether it be humanitarian or environmental or something else entirely? So a little about my inspiration here. My inspiration came a lot from this guy called Bill Nye the Science Guy. This guy here is absolutely hilarious. He has a book titled Undeniable, fantastic pun. And it was Evolution and Science of Creation. And this book here was so well written, I really, really liked it. So one of the things in academia is that you have to write very concise. And so to be able to read something really easily digestible by a scientific sort of, advocate was really cool. Because at the moment, if you want to write something in science, you can't really embellish it or say really, really nice, articulate things. It's very much boring. This guy here, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I love this guy. Again, another sort of pop culture icon of our sort of age. But I remember watching YouTube videos of him, and I got asked this question, and it was something along the lines of, oh, are you an atheist or are you an agnostic? And he goes, the only ist I am is a scientist. And I was like, yes, that's such a cool thing. That's such a great answer. This man here, does anyone know this guy's name? Adam Burrow, right? Chocolate bar. So I love this guy. He's been around for youngsters. As you can see, he's actually 95 years old. It's getting old. But a lot of his documentaries were really inspiring for me. And lastly, the reusable rocket from SpaceX. Man, that was really cool. So I was working in the retail sector and I was like reading all about these people, seeing the science they're putting out. And I was like, wow, rockets, I want to do rockets. Like, I want to, be involved with that. So I was like, I'm going to go back to university and do this, because the thing that all these people you see have in common, whether it be mathematicians, biologists, astrophysicists, chemical engineers, they all have degrees. And so I realized that rather than making like a sort of personal change, I had to make a career change. And so I came back and I did a certificate in university preparation, CUP. So this here is like a bridging course. So if you didn't do too well in your last year of study at, say, NCA level 3, it's essentially that in about 12 or 13 weeks. So it's like year 13 crammed in. And I was like, this here could be challenging, but this will make or break whether or not I go back to university. If I can pass this, surely I can pass university. So like I said, I had no idea what I was doing, which was great because a lot of the people there also didn't know what they were doing. They have great course selection, whether it be science or arts or any other kind of discipline. And all the people were in the same boat. So if there was a struggle, the struggle was together. If there was success, generally the success was together. And it was really cool to share those kind of intimate moments with people in that course. So what courses did I take? I took academic writing and I got an A-. I was like, oh, wow, this is a great start. I'm doing well. Obviously, some of these books I've been reading have translated well into this environment. I took biology, I got an A, again, quite nice. Chemistry, A-, not too bad, a little bit of a struggle. Engineering, math, C. C's get degrees. No, that's a bad philosophy, don't adopt that. This here was a pretty crucial moment as an adult, coming back and being like, oh man, seeing a C on like your report card, it's really disheartening. And so I had to make a compromise. And I was like, I've told everyone I'm going to be an engineer, I want to be studying this, I want to do that, and it was really hard to go back on my word and say, I don't actually want to do that. I really enjoy biology, I loved writing, I love chemistry, why don't I go down that route instead, play to your passions, play to your strengths. And so that's what I did. And so now I want to talk a little bit about the first year of university and how it was kind of structured and why it's structured and how it works and why it could be beneficial for you. So this image here is really cool. This is a trans-electron microscopic image. And this here is bacteria under that microscope. It has been coloured. It's not that colour. But what it shows you is the diversity of life. And there's this paper called Bio 113. And in this paper, there are 3 subjects: animals, bacteria, and plants. Pretty straightforward, right? But the cool thing about the way this is designed is that if you really like animals, you can go on and do animal behaviour or evolution, right? You can start to cater your degree to what you want to do. You don't have to be 100% certain about what you want to do. You don't feel locked in or constrained. Bacteria, this is what I chose to do. I chose to go into molecular biology and microbiology, but I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then plants, if you like plants, no one really likes plants. You can go into plant physiology and field ecology if you like being out in that kind of realm. Plants. And so some of the industry skills that you may develop if you chose to do a Bachelor of Science seems really, really basic. But how to use a microscope. When I was working at the trials place in the city last year, one of the guys, or one of my managers, couldn't use a microscope. They wanted to introduce microscopy to our lab. And they brought this microscope in, and they're like, oh, this is one of our older microscopes. Didn't know how to calibrate it, didn't know how to use it. They're going to get a technician in. And I was like, no. I went up to it, calibrated it, fixed it all up, and it was up and running in like 5 minutes. And it's crazy that they're going to pay someone, $1,000 to come in, fix a microscope. And so it's one of those taken for granted sort of skills. How to use a thermocycler. So this here does PCR reactions. And you might have seen that in the press at the moment because that's how they do tests for COVID-19. And so we teach you that fundamental basic skill in our labs. We also have protein purification. So maybe you want to go into cancer research or ALS or pick a disease. If you want to do that, you've got to know about the proteins and how they interact and why they do what they do. So we teach you how to do that here at uni. And how to cultivate bacteria, probably the coolest part. So these little E. coli on a plate, but when you go into the industry and you're working at a laboratory, maybe it's a food laboratory, you've got to know how to use agar and different types of chemicals so that they can live and be detectable. Also, you get to do awesome field trip experience. This is our CAS field station, and whether it be geology, geography, plants, bacteria, other cool stuff, you get to go to the CAS field station and do some really awesome work out there. With my research, I work in an extremophile laboratory group, and what we really want to do is find out what kind of bacteria live in extreme situations, and if they are living there, why do they live there? So a really cool place we go to is up in Rotorua, and we look at different hot pools and geothermal areas to see what's living there. Or other people in my laboratory group actually are looking at bacteria that grow in Antarctica. There's a place in the dry valleys, and the bacteria there just live on hydrogen and CO2, which is pretty crazy when you think about those gases. And so if they can live there, I wonder if they can live on Mars, because that atmosphere is mostly CO2. How cool of a discovery would that be? Come on, Mr. Musk. Right, science today, I'll end on this. Is it all doom and gloom? We've got greenhouse gases on the rise. We saw over there that it's pretty out of hand. We've got antibiotic-resistant bacteria. We've got Nickelback and Little Pump still making music. Is it all doom and gloom? Or is there hope? Scientific innovation, right? I love this. The world will not be saved by scientific innovation alone, right? There's a lot of things at the humanitarian level where we collectively need to work together in order to move forward. We've got a conscious generation that's capable of intergenerational thinking, which is really, really cool. Some of the smartest people I was sitting beside in my first year have gone on to do amazing things, and I'm still blown away by how smart the younger generation is. And lastly, David out of Bristol, live. Awesome, thank you very much.
The overwhelming impression you don't like plants. I should say Flynn was perhaps a touch more serious in his thesis in 3 presentation, but still did a fantastic job. Alrighty, questions. Have we got any questions for Flynn? Yep.
What's been some of your... actually, no, let me reword that. Oh no, I'm sorry. My brain's not working.
That's all right, take your time.
Yeah. Once it comes back, I'll speak.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, that's all good. It's all good. Yeah, I was just, while Amy's running up the stairs, how far through your master's degree are you?
Just over halfway now. So I'm kind of in the key stages of getting some cool results, and yeah, it's going well.
And then what happens?
Then I'll probably be poor for a while.
I was meaning more the examination stage, but so you'll write up a thesis. Yeah.
Are you glad that you went into biology? Sorry, I've got to stutter. Are you glad you went into biology and not engineering in the end, even though it was like a bit of a disappointment at the start?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I guess when I realised like my hopes were to go into engineering and it didn't happen, and I went into biology, it was still really satisfying because these disciplines are no longer just that, they're interdisciplinary. And so you have skills from engineering, math, physics, biology that you actually draw from. And so at the moment, with my project, we'll be eventually looking at making sort of these bacteria grow in bioreactors, which is very much their engineering field. But so long as you're happy with what you do, I don't think there's not much room for disappointment.
It's an important point that you make, that a lot of the research is interdisciplinary. So the biologists work with the chemists, work with the engineers, work with health professionals and so on. So have you remembered it?
I wrote it down.
Excellent, good.
What's been some of the most interesting things you've discovered?
That I've discovered? Well, there's a lot of troubleshooting in the realm of science. And so you might set up a project or an experiment and nothing works. And you want to change all these things. but it's really hard to not do that because you just want to change one thing at a time and see how it works. And so I guess that would be one of my discoveries. I haven't made any breakthrough discoveries in the actual field of science myself, as I'm still learning as part of my master's.
Yeah, but project planning is really important. Yeah, cool. Probably got time for one more question. Amy, are you able to just run up? That'd be grand.
I feel like I need someone to sing Eye of the Tiger while I'm doing it.
With coming into uni as an adult, did you feel like that was an advantage to you, being older than the rest of the students around you?
Yeah, great question. So I guess being an adult student and having my sort of background in retail, I was quite confident. So whenever I got stuck, I wouldn't be afraid to ask questions. A lot of people are quite shy and don't want to be embarrassed, whereas I don't mind being embarrassed because, you know, I'm a lot older. And because I'm a lot more serious about what I want to do, I was able to discipline myself really well. I know a lot of young people struggle with sleep and schedules and things like that, so it can be a little bit trickier. But it was also really intimidating with people that have all these rich backgrounds in NCEA and things like that. And so it was a little bit of a struggle, but as you progress through your university career, you know, everyone kind of gets brought up to the same plateau, and yeah.
Attitude is has a lot to do with it, I think. Cool. I think we'll leave it there just now, but you'll be around.
Yeah, I'll be hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So once again, on behalf of the University and College of Science,
thanks.
I've got a little token of our appreciation for your time this evening. Thank you so much. Cool. Okay, so Flynn did talk a little bit around the structure of degrees and where that can lead in terms of identifying your passions. So next up we have Alana and Dan from our liaison team to talk about next steps. So hopefully your presentation is there. Yep, so if you guys are able to locate that. As I say, I haven't got my glasses on, so small writing is a challenge. There we go. So, and we also need a microphone.
Is this on? This is on. I'm fine to stand here if that's all right.
That's absolutely fine. Cool.
Kia ora koutou, no mai tauti mai ki te whare wānanga o Waitaha. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Alana and this is my colleague Dan, and we obviously both work here at the University of Canterbury, and we are part of the liaison team. And we just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to us and our team. Those of you who are here in your school uniform should be familiar with us and hopefully have connected with us over the last little while, but our job is essentially to support you into university. It can be super, super overwhelming. Some of you may be at the start of your journey and trying to figure out what exactly it is you want to do with the rest of your life, and we can definitely help you in that space. So we visit schools throughout the year and support you in understanding what it is you need to actually come through to university, so helping you understand things like entry requirements. We can also support you with applying for scholarships, applying for accommodation, and then towards the end of your final year of school, we also do what's called course planning. So if you have no idea what it is you want to study when you come through to university, we can help you to keep your options open. Or if you know exactly what it is you want to do and where you want to go, we can support you in that space as well. Next term, if you are in year 13, then we will be coming out to all of your schools, because I'm assuming you're all local. But if you're watching us online, we're probably coming to your school as well. And we sit down with students individually and help them plan their courses and also help you to understand the enrolment process here at the University of Canterbury. If you would rather meet with us one-on-one, then you can touch base with us via email or by calling 0800 Varsity, but we have also just set up an online booking system so you can actually book one-on-one appointments with us. And parents, you're open to come along to those too, because I'm sure you might have some questions. If you just go back, Dan, how to book in an appointment with us is, this is our homepage, so just go to our homepage, click on Engage up the top in the navigation bar, and you'll find Liaison Office in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will take you to our homepage. You just click on Connect, contact us even, and then that will take you to our team, and you just scroll through and find the liaison officer that you want to meet with. Depending on what school you go to, you actually have a dedicated liaison officer who is there to support you in Year 12 and Year 13. So hopefully you're familiar with that person, or if you're not sure, you can come and have a chat with us afterwards as well. But you just click on make an appointment, and that will take you through to our available times, and you can set that up. Just as an FYI, these are some of the key dates that we have for the remainder of the year. So your next opportunity to get more information is our Hui Tairanga, or Information Evening. So our local event here in Christchurch is happening on the 9th of June, and that is back here in C Block. Okay, so we'll be starting off in C1, but if we reach capacity, then we'll be streaming into this lecture theatre and C2 as well. And that's a good opportunity to find out some more general information about starting out at the University of Canterbury. We have different subject sessions, so if you want to find out more about studying science here at UC, you can go to the science sessions, but we also have arts, commerce, engineering, education, health and human development, if you're looking at some of those options as well. And it's also your opportunity to connect with some of our academics here on campus as well. After that, we have scholarship applications, which will go live on the 20th of June, and those will close on the 15th of August. The system is a little bit backwards, so you actually apply for scholarships first, and then next comes accommodation if you are looking at that. And then you don't actually apply to enrol to study with us until October. Okay, so applications for 2022 will open in that first week of October, and you have until mid-December to get your application into the system. But as I say, our team will support you in understanding how to do that and what to do in that space. And then we wait for your results to come through early next year. But if you have any questions about your transition into university, about studying science or anything like that, then please feel free to come and chat with Dan or I after this. We'll be hanging around and sharing pizza with you very shortly. So yeah, that's us.
Well, ka pai, Alana and Dan, thank you so much for that, and it's great that you're able to stay around. So I think we're almost at the end of this particular bit of the evening. My understanding is that we're going to have a little draw of names out of the hat. So Anna, if I could ask you to come up. And we've got 3 student helpers, so I think we've got 3, have we got 3 prizes, is that correct? Yeah, so I'll ask each of the student helpers to come up. So first we have Shay Townend, who's working towards a Bachelor of Science and is also in the ROCSOC. So we talked about societies. And then we have Izzy Razif, who is doing a Bachelor of Science in Geology with a minor in Geography. Whoa, 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 slow down, slow down. And he's also in ROCSOC. And then on the end we have Ben Ireland, who is actually a first-year undergraduate student here at the university, doing an engineering with honours. So it's what's called the intermediate year. And he's also in the Space Student Space Association Club. So lots of different clubs, lots of different varieties. And you've all got names, so who have we got first up?
Tara Docking.
So Tara Docking, are you here? Yeah, do you want to just pop down? And you have...
Jessica Sultan.
Jessica, is it Sutton or Sultan? Sutton, I think. Yep. Jess, are you here? Yep. Yeah, if you want to pop down. And
We have Sarah Marshall as well.
Ah, another Sarah. Sarah Marshall, are you here? May have had to leave. Not sure. Okay. Okay, so got some gifts for you. There's one over here. There we go. There you go. It should sustain you through the evening. And do we have the third? Oh, just coming out down just now. That's wonderful. There we go. So our student helpers are here also to talk about life as students at UC. So have we got some refreshments lined up outside? Okay, so with that, what I would like to do is firstly thank you all so much for coming along this evening and for participating. Sorry? Yeah, okay. You know, without that question and without that interaction, this is what it's all about. It's all about finding out more. I would like to once again thank our presenters who did a fantastic job. So perhaps we could just thank them just now. And that includes Philip, who did leave slightly earlier, as we heard. And we'd also like to thank Janelle, who has put this evening together. Janelle, could you come here a moment, please? Yeah, we have a little something for you. Okay. Okay. And so really the take-home message is there are a huge number of opportunities out there. Please do take them, but you need to talk to people. So what came through from all of the presentations is the importance of networking and discussion. So please stay curious, keep asking lots and lots of questions, and please do interact with us outside in the foyer just now. Thank you so much.